All right, here we are. Frank, this is the seventh edition of the Middle Age Podcast. This is me, Ricky, Nebraska. And Frank, I got a special guest for you today.
And who would that special guest be today, Ricky?
Well, considering recent events, I feel like you needed, in particular, a passing coordinator, passing analyst. So I just went above and beyond. We got you the best in the business. We have with us the number one team in the nation, number one passing team in the nation, the Virginia Tech Hokies. What's happening, DJ?
What's
Woo!
going on, guys? Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Wow. Welcome
Yeah.
welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to have you, the first person that's not a commissioner to come in as a guest. I mean, you're doing something that no one has ever done before, and we greatly appreciate you coming on with us today. So,
Hell yeah, man. Uncharted territory. But no, very glad to be here. Big fan of the podcast. You guys do an excellent job. I think all the praise you guys get for it's well warranted. And I think the show's going to even higher heights. We got some exciting stuff from Frank maybe later on that.
yeah, we might. But for now,
Yeah, no, just glad to have you on. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, big fan of the way you play the game. You're definitely one of the most respectful, I'd say, members in the entire dynasty, and just seeing the fruits of the way you play the game, and actually you getting all the recognition you finally deserve. Number one team in the nation in the rankings, but like just the way just the eye test, everything. So, it's glad to have you on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, and like thrilled to be a part of this league. Big shout out to the commissioners. This is like one of the most fun video game experiences I've ever had. I'm a big lifelong gamer, so yeah, just pumped to be a part of it all, man. And it's been a fun season so far for sure.
all right. See, Ricky,
Hundred
and
percent.
we've given the ACC a lot of shit. But the
We
first
have.
person we had was Florida State. They're ranked third. Second person we had Clemson. They're ranked fifth. Third person we have Virginia Tech. They're ranked first. Maybe we're looking at the ACC, in the wrong eye, and maybe the ACC is the best conference.
Well, they might be the most top heavy. Let me just say that. Um, and maybe it is a factor of the likes of DJ here just absolutely trouncing on people that make it seem worse than it actually is.
I mean, 400
Um,
and almost 470 points at four is just unbelievable, and you only let up 137 points. I mean, no wonder why you're winning these games 70-30. I mean,
yeah,
you're just doing something right, and we would love for you to maybe, break down what you do, on a play, like what you're reading in the coverage, like just, simple like little things that help you like see what you're going up against.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely, it's no secret. I'm a pretty pass heavy offense kind of guy. Pass minded first. Um, and yeah, team wise, I think like this is kind of the fruits of the labor of the recruiting from the last couple years, and uh, got some talent, like some speed. Really is the big separator. I think. You know, as far as like what you want on your team, but as far as like what I'm looking for, my what I really do is I'm looking at what the defense is doing first. So the biggest thing for me is to try to recognize or identify what kind of coverage they're in, and there's a couple different ways you can do that. Whether it's kind of reading what they're doing defensively, you got some settings that can help you. Um, I don't know if anybody else uses the view the last play, so there is an actual way that you can kind of get some information there on exactly what your opponent's running, and I try to just make my decision based off of that. And more than anything, I would say I guess try to take what the defense gives me and not try to force a hot hand or anything
Hmm.
the
Yeah, I
way I
would
want to
know.
do.
I would know something about that. But anyways, no, but it definitely looks like speed is the number one thing you have. I mean, Nick Harbor is undoubtedly probably the best wide receiver in this dynasty. Just based, look at that platinum tier
He's a
takeoff with
freak.
99 speed, 99 excel with 6'5". I mean, that will make any quarterback, even J-Ron Chubb, look amazing. But you're definitely doing something right, though. You're making the right reads. You're not forcing the ball. And that's something that takes someone from being a good player to an elite player. And so just simply checking the ball down for a 3-yard gain versus maybe taking a shot for 20 when a 50-50 ball. Like simple stuff like that.
Yep.
Is what makes a player great, in my opinion. So that's something I've
Absolutely.
noticed that you've done,
Absolutely
and
agree.
you always pounce on people whenever they make a mistake as well. So, just you're doing great stuff, and I feel like you've definitely grown a lot as a player as well. Your first 2 years in here, maybe didn't end the way that you thought, but this third year, I definitely have you as the odds-on favorite to win the whole thing. So, great job so far, man.
Yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to get into, Frank. Is so right now, obviously, we're in year 3, and I feel like you DJ, you've grown every single year, a lot like a lot of other players in here. But can you just tell us like what mistakes that you've made in years 1, years 2 has helped like evolve your passing game?
Biggest mistake in year 1 was probably falling asleep during that Syracuse game. No, but um, I mean, the first couple years, having drones was like, it was nice to have a quarterback like that, and
Right.
when you have a guy like that, it can kind of like cover up some mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of the guys that I've faced can probably attest to that with just that extender ability that he has, and breaking sacks kind of gives you a second chance when you don't deserve one sometimes. So it was nice to have him those first 2 years. This year's been a little bit of it's been interesting. I didn't know what to expect out of my freshman quarterback, obviously coming in early on. Had a couple games that were a little squirrely with him. It's not the accuracy I was used to with drones. Um, so that was, yeah, took a little, I guess, getting used to, and just learning to kind of not take some chances in some situations that I would have in years 1 and year 2. But, but
Right.
yeah,
So, right, and it
yeah,
looks like you've been dominating your opponents. I mean, 28 points to Bobby, but I think some of those were I don't want to be mean, but garbage points there for Bobby. But
for sure.
14, 24,
Definitely.
17, 17, 17. I mean, you're doing something right on defense as well. So, you know, Virginia Tech is moving here, folks. So,
Yeah. So there's two I want to highlight here. So first one, actually, Frank, if you can just scroll
yeah,
up, I want to see that Texas score. So if you can just take me through what actually went wrong for you last year in the semifinal,
Yeah. Yeah.
to the difference in where you basically were able to blow out Texas in a revenge game this regular season.
Well, so I think like that being the first game of the year, and Matt and I had actually talked about it in band a little bit. It's tough when you lose some really key players, and you come into that first game of the season without being able to have a CPU game, kind of try some things out, see where some guys are lined up, whatever it may be. So I think that might have had a little bit to do with it. But going back to the semifinal game, I mean, a lot of credit to Texas, man. He really played a great game that game, and the pressure that he got on me was just, it was tough. I can't remember his defensive end's name that year. It was Ethan something. I can't remember, but that guy was just constantly in my backfield. Um, he just had a really good game plan. I know I struggled to pass the ball that game, and it just kind of, I don't want to say it took me by surprise, because I came in telling myself not to underestimate him, but yeah, I just kind of got smacked in the mouth, and never bounced back from it fully in that semifinal game. So got a little lucky with the scheduling to be able to run that one back so quickly.
Yeah, and then just as you were saying, how you sort of had more of like a pocket passer, precision passer last year. You got these DNs that can just collapse on you quickly. It makes it tough to essentially game plan against that. Where like now, if that was the same scenario, I feel like now if you have a scrambler, you might be even better equipped if you come across that scenario again in the playoffs.
for sure.
So based off the 3 years so far in this league, you've probably played, probably over half the league, maybe a little bit under. But based on your opponents that you've played, it doesn't have to be in conference, can be out. Who is probably the best opponent that you've faced in this league so far?
It's a really good question. I feel like there's a couple answers I could give there, but I would probably have to give the nod to Florida State, man. Ian's tough. We've played three times now, I think, maybe four with the conference championship in there. And there was one or two I think that maybe weren't super close, but probably kind of like that Miami game you alluded to. The score didn't reflect how close the game was the whole way through. But just talking about Ian a little bit, man, he's a really good defensive player. Plays a really good cover two man, and we'll change it up on you, kind of. Tough to predict what he's going to do. And, offensively, he's tough to stop. I feel like he's a team that always has some good talent, some good speed out there. And he definitely can tell he kind of knows what he's doing. He makes his adjustments, and never an easy game against him, especially if you're in Tallahassee.
Mhm. Yeah,
No, those road games are always
yeah.
tough.
Yeah, I never got to really play any ACC opponent yet, so it'd be cool to get a game versus Clemson or Florida State. So keep that in mind, schedule guys, for next season. But
Hey, Clemson's another one, man. That's a
yeah,
tough opponent there. Nick plays like a really it's a tough system to kind of break down. Like offensively, man, he's gonna come at you with the run game, obviously, but he sets up a lot of the play action like really well with that
yeah,
kind of a basic scheme. But like it's just tough to stop.
right.
Good
And
defensive player too.
well, what makes Nick so great as well is he gets these recruiting classes like crazy. But then what's this? Virginia Tech slides into the number 3 hole here. And so we've had the number 1, the number 2, number 3, and the number 4 guys here on this podcast already. So I guess who's next here is the 5th guy, and Joel Schultz from Oregon. So Joel, you better be listening. You better be ready because we're coming to you next. But anyways,
sure
DJ, so what, going into the recruiting class, what particularly were you targeting? It looks like right end and maybe another quarterback, but were you particularly looking to just fill some holes, or were you looking to get some guys here to, really help your team?
Definitely fill some holes as far as the defensive line. I feel like that might be my weakest position group. So anytime you can add help to the D line and those D ends,
Well, you have
it's nice you
3
get in
good
good
ones.
position.
You got 3 really good right ends here. So it definitely looks like you addressed that position.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can't go wrong with just bringing in, as much top tier talent, those 4-star, 5 stars as you can, and just kind of, seeing how they
Yeah.
develop. So
Yeah, you definitely
No,
went
and just the
defensive.
other thing,
Wow.
yeah, just the other thing is, you have a strength, you know what that is, that's your passing game. So
Right.
I just feel like you should always try to keep it, maintain it. And it looks like you got a 5-star quarterback there, and you beat me out for a wide receiver in the Midwest. So,
I'm excited about that receiver.
yes,
Is
I was really hoping to keep him home.
Is that the
You beat me out.
Cashivarin, or is that whatever how you say it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We got some speed there, speed kills. So
Gotcha.
we're excited about it.
Yeah. Definitely no doubt.
So just to piggyback on a couple of questions that Frank had before, he asked you, who's the toughest opponent you had, and generally I consider the ACC there's the best. There's 1, 2, 3 teams right there: Virginia Tech, Clemson, Florida State, and I say the rest. Miami's sort of teetering that best and rest line. So other than those 3 other teams, who's a team that impresses you that you're always like, oh man, I need to lock in to win this kind of game?
Specifically in the ACC, you mean?
Specifically in the ACC or Notre Dame, because
Yeah.
they're sort of that, I mean,
kind of in there.
they're sort of that
definitely-
tweener, I guess,
Yeah.
but we won't count them either.
Yeah, definitely. Have been impressed with Notre Dame. Respected them. That was a big win for them against Oregon early in the year, and they've kept it rolling ever since. But no, to answer your question, there's a couple, man. I think Louisville. I had a close game with Casey
Mm-hmm.
last season, and it was like a shootout. Nobody could stop anybody. A lot of defense out there, no D being played, and just like back and forth, man. And Pitt too. I give Pitt some respect. The last time we played, it was another game where I think the score kind of got away a little bit at the end, but for a minute there, I really liked what he did offensively, the way he moved the ball.
Yeah, I mean Pitt, he can definitely put up points. He just unfortunately throws a lot of interceptions, take himself out of some games. But I can attest to having that problem before, like year one. And I played Casey last year in the DirecTV Holiday Bowl.
Yeah.
And he, same kind of game. Like neither one of us could really play defense, and just a couple
Right.
timely turnovers helped me just, basically just drive that game away. But he's an impressive player. If he
Right.
could get the recruiting down and match some of
Yeah.
these other top tier schools with speed, I think he'd be in a much better position than he is now.
Yeah, we've touched on him
Totally agree.
in prior videos. We've said like Casey's the type of player that can go out and put 60 on you, but he's also that type of player that can go out and drop 10. So he just goes, with how the game's going. So, if you're out there throwing picks, he might be taking advantage of it and putting up points on you. But there's also that route where he could be the one throwing picks. So that's the kind of thing you got with Louisville right now, in my opinion. But still, Casey, great player and definitely improving a lot. So good job for Louisville.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Now
100%.
here's
And then
another.
just my
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead,
sorry, go
Ricky.
ahead, Frank. No,
Okay.
you go and ask your next one. I'll do
Well,
the
the
next.
just a quick thing. I don't know if you've gotten to see or watch any of NC State, but I noticed that you have them on your schedule. He seems to be a pretty
I do.
decent player. Do you happen to know anything
Yeah.
more about him or any insight about the NC State player?
I don't. So I'm looking forward to that game. I saw that Ian had specifically given him a shout out early in the season and said, this guy's good. So, that's always a good thing, man.
Yeah.
Competition's makes it fun. So I'm looking forward to that one for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. It looks like he has a pretty good defense. He puts up a good amount of points as well. So that'll definitely be one to watch whenever that game gets played. But yeah, Ricky, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Well, before I get to that, I'll just touch on NC State real quick. I mean,
Yeah.
he was up 10 late in that fourth quarter against Ian, and just threw an untimely interception. So I mean, I feel like especially when you're a new player in this league, getting that experience in user games, I think it's just going to make him tougher. He's going to learn from that, and unfortunately for the rest of his opponents, the rest of the year, like DJ, maybe he doesn't make that mistake again. So that's gonna be definitely a game that I'm gonna be looking into.
Yeah, for sure.
But then for my next question was, so we've gone over the people you have played in the ACC, and going to play in the ACC. Who are some teams that you've never played yet that you would really look forward to?
Yeah. So I'll skip a controversial topic and just say that there was a guy that I really wanted to play just because of his play style and some of the stats and stuff. But I just always I want to play the best, man. So um, let's see here. Oregon's one that I've got there's some sentimental value there. Joel and I are good friends outside of the
Oh,
league. And he's got a nice team out there in Eugene. So that's one that, I would always welcome. I think Ricky, I think you and I would make a fun
right.
game, man. The ball,
Oh
there
yeah, we
might be
would.
a run all game long. So that could be a fun one to watch for sure.
Only when someone gets sacked, probably.
I would
Yeah,
love
how
to
about it?
see an Iowa versus Virginia Tech game, strength versus strength. The strength of
There
Iowa's
you go.
defense and the power of Virginia's Tech's offense. That could be a fun one to watch, in my opinion.
Oh,
For
that
sure.
that guy's so tough, man.
Yeah.
Like I feel like DJ and I play the same exact way, and he and I always have a battle.
Right. Yeah,
You're
you
right,
always
strength
have
versus
great
strength.
games versus Iowa. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one where you have to lock in from minute one to even
Yeah.
Yeah.
stand a chance. You can't make one mistake against him. I made one mistake against him last year. I was up 11.5 and made one interception in the fourth quarter. That's all it took for me not even being in contention for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely can tell he deserves the respect he gets. And, that'll be another fun one for sure.
Yeah, the Big Ten in general, like you mentioned Oregon there. I play him next week, or actually probably in real time, a couple days.
Right.
He's
one.
another one that he does everything right. He runs the ball well, passes the ball well, plays good defense more than he gets probably credit for. So there's some dogs out here in the Big Ten, that's for sure.
For sure. And Penn
Absolutely.
State, Josh McMahon is coming back after his week off. He is returning to the league. So I just wanted to make that official announcement here. I might have said something in the band app, not sure, but officially from the Middle Age Podcast, Josh McMahon is coming back to Penn State to finish the year.
That's awesome. I'm personally pumped to hear that, guys. Great job getting that guy back. This league needs him, and definitely glad you're back, Josh, for sure.
Yep. So Oregon will definitely get a tough one there at the end, even though McMahon is struggling this year. He's still always a tough out. So he can maybe knock Oregon out of a playoff or the Big Ten championship with a win. So there's a lot of implications with him being back in the league. So excited for that, and Ricky's excited for it. So Penn State can take down Iowa and or Oregon. So I know Ricky's happy, and the league's happy in general to have McMahon back. So that's good to have him back.
Oh yeah, he's just such a fun guy. I mean, you know this, Frank, and doesn't really show. He doesn't really comment a lot on the band app, but anybody that knows Josh, he's just a really fun guy to be around, and he's the whole reason we're even in this. So
that's right.
I'm just glad he could.
The reason that this podcast is even a thing is because of him. So just want to do that little shout out there for a good pal. But let's take a look at the Heisman watch here. Will you look at this? I mean, this is crazy. So you're just dominating the ground game too. 16 for 207, 3 touchdowns against poor Bobby. I mean, you're just all over it, man. So is the run game opening up a lot more? Because are you doing play actions? Are you how's the run game helping your pass game this season?
Well, I think it's probably like the opposite. So
okay.
I run the ball a little more in these user games than I do, in my CPU games, and I think a big reason for that is, if you're coming into the game playing me, you pretty much have a good idea what I want to do, and a lot of guys are set up for that. And like I said earlier, you just kind of sometimes have to take what the defense gives you as opposed to trying to impose your will.
Right. So we got
so sort of go off that. So there's obviously I feel like you just look at the ACC alone, honestly, and I feel like a lot of these teams they are probably run first, play strong defense, and then pass when they need to. And here you are, the polar opposite. So, I mean, I feel like personally, with you and I having the same kind of identity, that I feel like actually in this game, it is harder to stop a good passing game than it is a good running game. Do you agree with that?
Definitely, especially if it's if you can be a little bit diverse with your passing game to where you can work certain areas, you know what I mean? So if you can counter to what you're seeing, somebody throws a defense up that, stops something you want to do and you have something else you can go to, then that's where I think you can be tough to stop in that, circumstance.
No, 100%. I mean, I know what I look for. If I see a lot of cover 3, I mean, I have the skill players, and especially even my running back routes and tight end routes, the way I'll just throw along the sidelines more than usual. So I feel like you can say, you're a passing team, it's one dimensional, but really passing game looks different from route to route, where the running game is a little bit more simplistic, I would say.
Sure.
And I don't know, it's one way to keep your opponents off balance for sure, especially with these user linebackers. You're basically only covering the middle of the field. So guess where I'm going to try to go actually most of the time? Away from the middle.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
you never want to attack a user unless you know you can beat it. That's
Yeah,
just,
it's a dangerous game there.
yeah, definitely no doubt. Let's see here. So you're leading by over 800 total yards in the ACC. You have 60 total touchdowns this season, 181 first downs. I mean, your defense, you're a top 5 defense in the ACC. And it looks like here, whenever I was glancing through, you have 48 interceptions this season. I mean, that is just unbelievable. And that just shows because people are trying to play catch up on you and they're making mistakes and then you
Hmm.
just bury them. So, it's just, you're just doing so many things right, man. And it's fun to watch you play. There's no doubt about it. So, you're just,
Uh,
I got you as the odds on right now to win it all because it's definitely not going to be me and it's probably going to come down to you, Ricky, because Ricky, I think you have a legit shot to go. And you, DJ, I'll go Florida State and Texas. Those will be my final four. That's my prediction going forward. So
Well, I
ooh,
appreciate the optimism there, Frank, but I'm not even sure I'm getting in the dance just yet.
I,
I have two
hey,
big games here in the Big Ten.
that's right. That's why it's just a
Um,
prediction.
all right, fair enough.
it's an
Yep.
So
interesting
hopefully,
one.
ho-
An interesting one.
hopefully you're not wrong. But I mean, I know that so I'm looking at that where you have like 48 interceptions, and my first thing is it 100% is the way you play because I know the way I like to play is where I actually like to get the ball first, no matter what. Get that quick 7, and it feels like my opponents haven't chased me from the get go. Is that what you like to do, or do you not care if you play defense first, offense first? You trust either side of the ball?
So, surprisingly, I actually like to defer. So I prefer to and I like your ideology on it because when you go down, you get those 7 points. Like you're definitely puts you in a good space. But I think you could say the same for going out there and getting a stop. So I'm always confident that I can score, but it's a matter of like, am I going to be able to stop this guy, or what's he going to want to do? So if I can go out there and get a stop and then get the ball, and then know that I'm getting it at halftime, obviously also, that's like ideal situation for me.
No, 100%. It comes down to actually having to make a stop no matter when. So I don't think there's a wrong answer to it. Just
Yeah.
you know,
Sure.
just seeing if you felt like you always went up, and then that helped sort of press your opponent into making those mistakes where they are throwing those so many interceptions.
Yeah, it's nice to play from ahead for sure for that regard. I'm a little more comfortable playing against the pass than the run, I guess. Some of these guys, man, in the league, I tell you, they get running it down your throat. Like it can just be tough to stop sometimes. So
Is there anyone in
might maybe
particular that had a run game that you struggled with to stop?
I thought Nick ran the ball really well against me, particularly in the game that he beat me in that first season. I think Texas did a really good job running it against me in the semifinal.
Texas, yeah.
Miami in that game that Nick alluded to it on the last podcast. I was up on Bobby pretty big in the first half and got a little greedy towards halftime there, threw a couple interceptions, and game flipped on a dime, and he took advantage of that. Like second half, he was running that clock, and he runs like a real good wildcat system. From time to time, he has that little mini scheme he throws in there, the jet sweeps and whatnot, and that can be tough. Guys get out in space. He's got some speed, and yeah, tough to stop.
hmm Yeah, I've definitely been trying to run the ball, more because like growing up, I only passed the ball because I feel like that's what everyone did growing up. No one liked to run the football, in Madden games and all that. But running the ball in this game, I feel, is so much different than the Madden games that I played growing up, or even the new one coming out, because I just feel like even in those games, like you can run the ball, but it's just always so hard to to do anything, in my opinion, like with it. I don't
Sure.
know if this makes sense, but like I just feel like in this game the run game is way more important. I guess I'll say this: the run game is way more important in this game than I'd say in like a Madden or anything like that. So developing that run game is very important, in my opinion.
I definitely agree with you, and I think my first impression of like the way the run game felt in college football in general was just that just feels like you have space, like you
Right,
have some room sometimes. Whereas in those Madden games, like you said, you touch the ball, it feels like the defense is right on you right away.
right.
And that can happen in this game too at times. But I mean, for the most part, you feels like you have some room to maneuver a little bit.
Yeah, because like in this game, like in particular, like you're running the ball and your guys could take some of the worst angles on a tackle because that's what their play rec, and like you look at Madden games and all
Yep.
that, you don't really see them making those terrible angles or anything like that. But in this game, like they actually made these guys feel like kids, and make them make mistakes, and kind of make it
Right.
more realistic in a sense. But I feel like, running the ball is something that goes under the radar just a little bit in this game.
No, 100%. I mean, even for those passing teams, you're gonna have to run the ball to drain that clock in a close game in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
It's just how it goes. But
Are you
just the game in general is definitely far more nuanced than even like last year's Madden. It's there's a they just like all just having to learn all these like just what like the shells do like and there's the playbooks are so much more diverse offensively
Yeah.
because that's how it
right?
is in college. So
Yep.
there's 10,000 different ways to play, and it's just a matter of finding the right one that's for you. Like, Nebraska's wasn't built for my kind of offense, so I had to sort of get the players I wanted in for that, and I'm sure it was the same for you, Virginia Tech, and then I mean, honestly, Frank, it seems like for you in Ole Miss, what you have now is not fitting your identity and what you like to play as a player.
No. No. That's definitely right, Ricky. You got me pegged.
Hey, better days ahead with that top 5 recruiting class,
Right. Nah,
man.
and that's all
That's
that
right.
matters. It's all good, man. I just have fun playing. I make bonehead mistakes like everybody else, but it is what it is. And I just get back up the next day and I make a podcast and I move on. Now I got
Yeah.
Missouri tomorrow after the advance, so hopefully I can get revenge on one Jeremita and I can bury another, pun intended. Um, so I'm looking forward to that. But
uh, so just before we close everything up, DJ, was there anything that you wanted to touch on about your team, about what you've been seeing in the league? Just purely anything. The floor is all yours. I think we're done with our questioning.
yep,
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's been a really fun season so far. Love the ACC finally showing some strength out here. That's been fun to feels like everybody's a little more like conference aligned this year too, with their loyalties and whatnot. So that's been cool. But no, I did just like a couple of tips that I just wanted to throw out
yeah,
there
please.
for anybody that might be struggling with the pass game. Um, play a
Frank, take
lot of
notes.
yeah, play a lot of this. So I mean, hopefully this isn't like stuff that everybody knows, but for starters, number one, I definitely would recommend like checking out your playbook. I assume that a lot of people probably just inherited their team's playbook. Like that is something you can change. Actually, a website, cfb.fan, you can go to where you can, like, what I like about this is you can go to formations that you like. You can click on certain formations and it will show you every other playbook
Wow.
in the game that has that formation. You can even do it down to like a single play. If there's a play you just can't part with, but you maybe want to try a different playbook, click on that play. It'll show you every other playbook that has that play. So just like not settling for what you're given, and maybe you find something in that. But just going off of like what we talked about a little bit earlier, and what I like to do, recognizing coverages a little bit. It's just really important, man, to try to take note of what the defense is doing. So, like in game, like you want to read the safeties. That's my biggest advice. Know if it's a 2 high or a 1 high look. That's going to tell you whether you're looking at an even top defense, a cover 2, 4, 6. or you're looking at something like a 1 or a 3, and that's going to tell you like how you want to attack that. Like Ricky alluded to earlier, cover 3, you know, weakness along the sidelines there, and every defense has a weakness. So just knowing what your opponent's doing from that perspective, like, can really help you out. Another way to kind of check that out, don't sleep on motion. I know I see a fair amount of people in the league doing it, but that can reveal some things, whether it's man or zone. Sometimes you see a safety roll down, might tell you, you know, what kind of zone they're in. So those kind of things like pre-snap. I think pass protection is something that a lot of people could benefit from, like, looking into a little more. There's a lot of teams that get a lot of good pressure, man. It's tough to throw the ball when you're getting pressured. So the left bumper, like pre-snap, will bring up some different pass protection options. You can actually cycle through those options and like view your blocking assignments. It'll also show you hot defenders, defenders that like aren't blocked, that if they come, they're coming free at the quarterback. And like this kind of stuff pre-snap can just, like, you know, help you make some better decisions out there. Um, Yeah, and then other than that, I would just say look into the mechanics a little bit. So they have like the revamped passing on this. I'm not sure um like how much you guys have looked into it, but kind of figuring out like the passing meter, um uh, the blue, yellow, red, the differences between the 3 of them when you're throwing the ball. Like, really want to try to stay in that blue zone to have accurate passes. It's going to be slightly less accurate in the yellow, and then reds are inaccurate passes that are just, you know, it could go a little haywire on you. And the pass leading, I think, is like the most important thing. So using that left stick when you're throwing, Ricky can probably attest to this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's really
100%.
important to not only throw your receivers away from the defense, but for instance, like on hitch routes, a lot of times the defenders, you know, kind of lurking right there with your receiver. If you hold down and bring that receiver back to you a little bit, like much higher chance of completing that pass. Or maybe the defender's kind of shaded to the inside a little bit, so you throw him down and outside, and your receiver can have some room after he makes that catch. Like those little things can really make like a, you know, pretty big difference in the game, I think. So
Right.
just a few things I wanted to throw out there. If anybody
But
has any questions, I'd be, you know, always happy to help too.
no, that's
No,
awesome, man.
100%. Those are great, great, great tips. One I would just simply add is if there's ever a throw where you're like, oh God, I shouldn't have thrown that or hit the wrong button. Sometimes what saves me is immediately using to that wide receiver and coming back towards the offensive line,
Right.
to where it's
Yeah.
so where you know as good of a chance to get undercut on those scenarios, and you know in those just trying to get an incompletion. Incompletion's great in
Right.
that
Right.
scenario.
And to throw out
Playing a
some
little defense on offense.
right. And just so I just want to throw out a little bit of props here, just to what you said, Ricky. One of the best users in this game on catching like deep balls is Texas, Matt Glenn. That man is so good at running your cornerback away from the ball and getting deep
The
balls.
swerve.
Yeah, he's the swerve. He has that swerve
Yeah.
down. He's very good at it. So that's definitely a skill that is like, something that you wouldn't think is a big deal. But if you
Oh
can
yeah.
if you can master that swerve, your deep
Be
balls are
rare.
unstoppable. So
Yep.
that's just my
Yeah, and
one little thing, my little shout out to my boy Matt
no,
Glenn.
100%. And
I
then if
hate
you're
you
see,
on Texas, but I love you.
that's what's great about Texas is they throw probably 4 verts more than I personally am comfortable doing myself. Um, but you know another really nice little tip there is say your outside receivers just stride for stride with the corner, and you've read that it's not zone coverage. Don't feel free to sort of do directional passing towards you, so all the way down, and you might get a back shoulder throw for an easy touchdown.
All right.
Those back shoulders are tough to defend, man. Yeah.
And well, one last thing here before we end it, we just got an announcement. At 6 o'clock, kickoff between Arizona and our buddy Brandon, West Virginia. So that'll be on at 6 o'clock. That should be a good one. Who do you got in that game, DJ? Arizona or West Virginia?
Man, that's tough. I haven't seen too much of West Virginia. I saw that game against Alabama, the ill-fated
Right.
game, there. So I feel bad judging it off of that. I'll go with Arizona just because they're, pretty hot team this year, man. I've been pretty impressed. Obviously, the big win against Penn State was pretty surprising,
Right.
honestly. And yeah, Christian's done an awesome job, man. He looks good. So I'll go that way. And just so you know, Frank, Brandon was riding for you pretty hard last night in the
I
chat,
know he
man. That
was. I
man
know.
was
I
he was
love
pulling
Brandon.
for you, bro.
I appreciate everything, man. He's Ole Miss's #1 fan, man. So all respect to Brandon.
Someone's got to be.
I'm not. I'm not even a fan. Um, no, I'm just kidding. I like my team, but we're done talking. So I appreciate everyone coming. DJ, thanks again, for giving us your time.
Sure.
Ricky,
Appreciate you
thanks
guys having
again.
me.
And this is episode 7 of the Middle Age Podcast, also known as the Sheets Boys. And we'll be back probably soon. So see you then.
Thank you, DJ.